Hello, everyone. Welcome to Crow Canyon's webinar on building a successful request management system in SharePoint and Office 365. We'll get going in 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll jump right into the webinar. We'll have some slides at first, and then go into a demonstration of the request management using our Nitro Studio and our applications. First, a few reminders about a webinar. If you want to ask questions, there should be a question panel on your webinar screen that allows you to put in a question, and we'll try and get to that during the webinar. If not, we'll answer it after. We do have a staff besides me who will be here answering the questions. And there's a chat, but we generally don't use that. We generally use the questions for this. So I think we'll just get going. It's after 11 right now, and we'll jump right in. First of all, thank you all for joining. My name is Scott Restivo. I'm the President and CEO of Crow Canyon Software. We've been in business almost 20 years. We have been working in the SharePoint and Office 365 space for the last about 15 years now, ever since 2007 came out. And before that, we were in the Microsoft Exchange and Outlook space doing help desk and other applications in the public folders. Now our focus is on building or delivering business applications. We also have the Nitro Studio out now, which is the application creation platform for Office 365 and SharePoint, and we also do custom solutions. As far as our business applications, what we call our premium, out-of-the-box, ready-to-go applications, we have help desk, asset management, customer service, facilities, work orders, equipment tracking, onboarding, a number of ones that are core business applications that are in use by organizations around the world. In addition, we developed the Nitro Studio. This is an application creation platform for SharePoint and Office 365. It works on premises in SharePoint 2013 and 2016, as well as Office 365. And we built this because we found we needed more than what SharePoint had out of the box. And this is what our applications are based on, is this set of enhancements. They allow quick development of flexible applications, and they can be either simple or complex applications built on top of those. And we'll jump into that during this webinar, and you'll see some of that studio in action. We're going to focus this webinar on request management, and requests, many kinds of requests come into an organization. Let's stop here and think a moment about that. How many kinds of requests come in, what the different types are, issues, how to, leave requests, hardware requests, purchases, update, and they come in from all these different departments. So one of the core points that we find from building SharePoint and Office 365 applications is that SharePoint, whether it's on premises or in Office 365, can be a really great way to manage requests. And a lot of people, a lot of organizations we talk to are not doing it in any real efficient manner because there's sort of lag in technology. Some people are using paper forms. Some people are using legacy systems, old systems they created. But what we have to do is understand the principles of it, like what type of request, who is submitting it, how it's submitted, when is it needed, how is it categorized. We'll go through all that during this webinar. And then the request management process here, a simple one, it requests, it gets approved, it gets fulfilled. But more often we're dealing with these more complex workflows. For instance, this one with leave requests. Not that we have to dig into particulars of this right now, but the point is that there are these kind of workflows that go on that can be incorporated into SharePoint and Office 365. I'm kind of breezing over this a little because I'm more interested in showing you how the Nitro Studio and our applications work. But this is to give a little preliminary that we're dealing with common business problems of request management. We're dealing with these kinds of workflows that come through, and we're taking them away from these legacy systems and email-based systems and putting them into SharePoint. It can be even a more complex workflow that can be built inside of SharePoint. For instance, onboarding can have many different moving parts. Again, my point isn't to dig into each one of these. When we do our custom solutions or we do our application development, of course, we work on these diagrams, I guess you call them, with different, with the end user, with the customer, and work it all out how we're going to do that inside with using the Nitro Studio forms, workflows, and reporting. But here it's just to show that there is a wide range of business processes that the SharePoint can cover, the SharePoint solutions can cover. And here's the ways that people are doing it right now that we find. People are using emails and spreadsheets, whether it's to track equipment, assets, whether to track requests, whether to even IT support sometimes. And there's problems with emails and spreadsheets. It's only limited core operation. Once the email goes below the horizon, you don't see it anymore. There's no real follow-up and accountability. Other people are still using paper forms. And I'll go into that a little bit today and show you an example how we can convert those paper forms into electronic forms, and it's a much more efficient process to use electronic forms than paper forms, of course. The issue there is really transforming both culturally, get off paper forms, but also getting the same level of functionality or better functionality or more streamlined functionality into the electronic forms. There's some people using legacy systems like databases or other something that was homegrown and built years ago. A lot of times those don't have mobile and cloud-friendly interfaces. It's a client-server approach, and they don't have the kind of collaborative underlayer that SharePoint does. And then there's enterprise software that can be really overkill and expensive to maintain. So we're pointing here where Crow Canyon's work is to bring organizations into a more efficient, modern way of doing business, handling simple workflows and business processes, and without the huge expense of some of these larger systems. I mean, there are systems out there that will manage requests or do management of business processes, but they get very complex and expensive, and SharePoint's a very good way to do it. But let's look at what SharePoint has out of the box. When you first get SharePoint, or whether it's an Office 365 on-premises, you notice it has sites, site collections, libraries, permissions, lists, columns, all that. And we find that that's a very good base to start with. It's not enough by any means, but it's a good base to start with. You have permissioning, you have integration with Active Directory, you have a little bit of a database structure with lists and libraries. So it's not and permissioning, it's not a bad foundation or place to start with, but we found it needs much more to really be a business application delivery platform. And that's what we've developed in our Nitro Studio, are these forms, portals, workflows, custom columns, email sync, reporting, database integration. We've been doing this for many years, 20 years in the application development, 15 or so in the SharePoint Office 365 space. So we have a very clear idea from real world experience what's needed and what isn't. And out of that, we built our applications, and the basis of our applications we found was this 3 pillars of application design. What we're trying to do is engage and empower users by improving the UI and UX. We're going to streamline automated processes with the workflows and business processes, and we're going to drive continuous improvements through reporting. And this is done with our Nitro Studio as the foundation. Nitro Studio is a layer on top of SharePoint that provides a number of apps, forms, workflows, reporting, all those things, and it makes it so SharePoint Office 365 is possible to deliver the kind of functionality needed. For example, here is a list of many things that are in there that we found are necessary to do what we're saying, such as UI, UX, empower and engage users with forms, portals, configurable workspaces, dashboards, all those things, to streamline and automate processes with workflow managers, custom actions, printing, database integration, and to drive continuous improvement with the reporting using the report center, dashboards, tiles and dials, and all those things. So from this slide, I'd like to launch into the demo. We're not there yet. So I'll launch into demo. Let me switch the screen out of this PowerPoint, whatever it is, and into the demo. So give me a moment here. Got this. Escape. Yeah. Okay. So what we have going on right here, and take a minute to look at this, is a request management system in a back end of SharePoint. This is SharePoint SharePoint Office 365. The same kind of idea in SharePoint 2013 or 2016. It's a request management system, but what we're going to look at today is what underlies this program and powers it up. You can see that this is fairly standard SharePoint with a few additions, but underneath this, what makes it so that this request management system happens is the Nitro Studio right here. So that's what I'm going to show right now. So here's Nitro Studio. Nitro Studio is giving the power to that application. It's what is powering it up. Nitro Studios, these are the apps. Essentially, it's a set of apps that we developed, or web parts on premises, that provide the functionality that SharePoint and Office 365 are missing. One big one is forms. Another big one is a workflow engine. Another big one is a reporting tool. And another big one is a portal, an application portal. This is what allows the SharePoint environment to become a request management system, or any of those other premium applications we come up with there, such as the help desk, asset management, facilities. All those are underlaid by this studio, but the studio is very easy for you to use. It's very easy for you to start with the Nitro Studio, get this installed in a site in your system, and then start building on top of it, adding forms, workflows, reports, as well as all the other capabilities here in the other parts of it, which is approvals, lookups, branding, cascaded, conditional formatting, custom actions, and all these other parts. And you can go to our website here, nitro.studio. Here it is. Bring it over here and see an explanation of all this. It's a very easy URL to remember, nitro.studio, nitro.studio. And you'll see that features and all this, some different components explained in great detail. Each one has information about it and all that. So you can go that when you have time. But right here in this demo, we're going to go through them and start to explain some of them live and in person right now, so that you can see the power and capabilities that go on and how to turn SharePoint Office 365 or Office 365 into a request management system, or really any other kind of application you want. So let's take a moment and then think about this. In a business, there are many, many business processes going on. And if they can be done in a more efficient way, you're going to save time and money. You're going to make your efforts more effective. You're going to reduce the amount of time it takes to get something answered. Requests are not going to get dropped. This is going to benefit not only the requester, but also the people who manage those requests to get off those email, spreadsheet, legacy systems into SharePoint. And here's how you do it. We feel like we've got a really good solution for doing that. So I was looking around the web earlier today and noticing this, and I'm going to bring this over. Just an example. It's just a random example. Here's the University of Maryland, and you can see that they've got all these different forms. All these different general benefits, whatever. This is just the Human Resources Department as an example. So this is the kind of thing where this company they haven't contacted us, but just to use it as an example, if they had, we'd look at this and say, oh yeah, you got all these paper forms going on. And this is very common among many universities or other large organizations. They have many, many forms that they have people fill out. And then the thing is, how can you get that into SharePoint? Really, that's a lot of people are asking that question. Let's look at one of these forms. It's a PDF, and it has these different paper forms. It's a paper form. I mean, it could be something that might be there in your organization, similar. I mean, not exactly the same, of course, but same idea that there's a form that someone has to fill out, and then it gets routed through different places, whether manually the paper's delivered or electronically it's delivered somehow. But basically, it's asking this basic information. And this is common. If I did a search for human resources forms, some organizations have hundreds and hundreds of these forms. Look at all the ones right here. There's just many, many forms. So the idea is that, can this kind of forms, HR forms, IT forms, office supply forms, any kind of form, can they be converted from this paper or these legacy systems into SharePoint? And the answer, of course, is yes. We do it all the time, and that's why we built this Nitro Studio components to handle just those cases for that. And the reason people are doing it, because obviously it's a much more efficient way. It has mobile capabilities. It's the people are more and more going into mobile devices, using their smartphones to fill out forms or answer requests and that kind of thing. So let's see what's going on here and how the Nitro Studio, how the Crow Canyon's applications using Nitro Studio can meet those needs and help your organization be more efficient and get things done and not drop requests. So let's see what's going on here. Well, the first thing is how the UI UX, the empower and engage in users. How do you get how do you get the information in there in the first place? Well, that university we just looked at is using paper forms. What do we have here instead of paper form? Well, one thing that can be done is send in emails. Emails can be sent in, and our email sync will convert that email into a new request or ticket or whatever issue, ticket, request into a SharePoint form. That's the email sync will do that. We won't spend too much time on that because that is more for issues and problems and complaints kind of thing, where there isn't really a form to fill out. It's more just, I have a problem, can you fix it? I have a complaint, can you answer it? I need information, can you fulfill the request? We're talking more about an organized form-based kind of submission for a request for something that may need certain information and has a certain process behind it that in order for fulfillment. So what we have for that is the Nitro forms and the Power Portal. Let's focus on the portal first, and I'll explain the difference before I get into it. Nitro forms can run either in the portal or in the back end. So if you went here to a request that already been submitted and you opened it up, it would open up in our Nitro form. This is for the people who are getting the request, managing the request. They're going to see it in our form with the different tabs and the different custom actions and all this that I'll go into here of setting this form up. But for the end user, if they're going to come in and do a new request here, they'll need access to the backend SharePoint and have a form there for them to fill out, which is possible. But there's another alternative that we provide, and that's the portal. We call it the Power Portal. So we'll go look at the Power Portal, and the idea here is to give them give end users a simpler, much easier way to enter in requests. You can see the difference between this kind of interface versus this kind of interface. It really is up to you. I mean, either way works. It's up to your organization. You can even just use plain old email if you wanted. I don't know, it's up to you. But the thing is, our experience has shown that when people, end users who just want to I just simply want to put a request in, and I don't want to know what on all this other stuff, then they are much easier for them to just go to some form like this, some portal, application portal like this, that gives them a nice, friendly interface to interact with. Now, this portal can be highly customized for your organization and look really, really specific to your organization. We'll go through some of that right now, and I'll show you some of the changes. First, I wanted to show you a little bit of a portal gallery, as I call it, where there are different portals that come up, and you can see the different look of them over here. That a portal can look quite different than what you're seeing here. Here's one example. Another example of a portal. This is a nice one with a picture of, looks like Hawaii or something behind it, but in a different logo. Here's another one with more of a like service catalog. It's kind of a mock-up here with a forms catalog. Just showing you the kind of variations that can be done with the user interfaces to engage and empower users. Here's another one. And that makes it so that this application portal is highly customizable for your needs. Let's do some of that right now. If I go into the portal settings, which an admin is allowed to go in the portal settings, I can modify this quite a bit. So in the portal settings here, just to stop for catch your breath a minute, what we're doing here is talking about the UI, UX, and empower and engaging users, because ultimately, if users aren't going to engage with the system in a way that's friendly, intuitive, and interesting to them, their system just going to simply write email or call you up. We want to push them into a system where they're like, hey, this is kind of cool and easy to use. No problem. I can go use SharePoint, I can submit a request, view my request, I can check knowledge base, and they get more interested and excited about it, and that's easier for them. It makes it easier for you who are managing requests to get requests submitted this way and get the information you need versus having resistance from the user. So this really, we found this very, very productive way to manage users, user engagement, the UI UX side of things. So let's look at what we can do here. In this portal settings, as an admin, you can have a lot of fun playing around. One thing you can do here is change the background image. So let's use a different image. This Blue Hill one looks good. Let's choose that one, upload. I think it's already uploaded, so upload it if it isn't already. And then save the settings. And now we have over here in request management, if we refresh, it should come up with a different picture behind there. Yeah, see, we just changed the picture like that. So you went from kind of a little boring, plain background to something more interesting. Maybe that picture of Hawaii that I showed earlier would work. I don't know, anything that, users get more interested when there's color, images, and things like that. So then as far as the structure of this, you could change the logo. It doesn't have to say Crow Canyon. It would say whatever your organization is. You can change any of this verbiage up here. This part is really the meat and potatoes of it, where you're coming in and saying, what are we going to submit? What are you going to view? You can look at the knowledge base. And then we add this section of quick requests, where you can add as many tiles and links here that make it so that they can go directly to the type of request or type of issue they want to submit. Now, here's another thing about this that's really important. This is mobile friendly. So if I go here and reduce this down to a mobile device size, you're seeing that we're starting to get, well, the picture's a little funky here, so I'd probably use a different picture, but you can see that we're getting to a place where it's fitting right on a mobile screen real nicely. And if I was going to do this, I would change this picture. I didn't realize it would look like that. But anyway, the point here, it doesn't really matter. You have a different picture. It doesn't. You have the hamburger menu up here where they can submit a new request, and it's going to come in very easily right here. And again, this picture can be adjusted. We'll go into that in a moment. So they can come in here and fill out their request and submit it right there in the mobile form. That's a really nice feature people really like. They don't have to go to their PC because it works in a tablet or a smartphone or whatever. So let's see how we can adjust these things here in the portal settings, back to portal settings. So notice the quick request and all this. Okay. So if we go to portal settings, we go to the home page settings, we go to quick links. This is just an example of how flexible this portal is to make it be the way you want. That's what Nitro Studio is about, application creation that puts the power in your hands to do these kind of things. So here we have header text called quick requests. Select from below to start the process. So back to this, you can see that's exactly what it says here. Quick request, select from below to start the process. Want to change that? Go ahead and change it. The properties here of the text color and the background color, the kind of light purple and the grayish, that's these colors right here. Then you go in here and say, okay, what about the tiles? Well, the tiles have different properties. You can have 3 of them in a row if you wanted. You can have different gaps between them, different fonts, where the font is, all that kind of stuff. And then the actual tiles themselves are set up to link to a particular form, saying what the title, the color, and all that. Say you don't like that pinkish color here, you can go over here and change that, or pinkish purple, you can change it to something else, whatever. I don't know, something here, or put your own RGB numbers in, or just make it something like that, just to play around. And then what icon is here, what image, we give you a whole bunch of images to start with, but you can add your own if you wanted. Image by clicking image, what size it is, where it's aligned, all that. So this is all and also custom JavaScript. So these are all ways to show without getting really deep into the details here, that you can modify this portal to be where you want it. And notice I just changed that pinkish to that kind of blue-gray color right here. So very easy to do. And I also can put this into 3 columns and all that. So that shows a lot of flexibility in what the users encounter when they first come to a request management system, and how each one of these can be linked to a particular kind of request. Of course, when that request is submitted, it goes to the right queue, it has the right formatting and categories, and the proper people are notified, and the proper process kicks off from that point. But first, you got to get the person to submit it, and the more you can get up front as far as the details of what they're going to submit, the more easier it is to categorize and move that through its processes. So now let's look at the generic submit request. Any one of these would come up with its own form, but let's look at the submit new request right here. So there's a lot of ways to modify this form and add different colors. Take this picture out if you don't like it. A lot of people do that. In fact, I don't even know why we have it in as default, but whatever. That can come out very easily. We're pulling in the requester details. That's all pulled in from the user profiles. We can decide what details we want to gather about for this particular kind of request. There can be categories, different categories of request, different priorities, title, and they can write a little description here, add an attachment, and then submit it into the back-end system. And then when it is, there's a whole bunch of workflows that kick off in order to get that process moving. Who gets notified? Does it need approval? Are there subtasks? Is there any other thing going on? Do we need more information from the user? And all those kinds of things can happen as part of the workflow part of this. Then once the person submits it, I'm just going to cancel that. They can, they'll get notified, all that. But I mean, they can also come back and look at the request that they have submitted. Again, it's got that goofy picture up here. I don't know. Anyway, so we're back here with the add new baby. That's an odd request. But admin request has shown admin account. We're seeing all the tickets for admin account. They can sort by all, open, closed. Here's one that was closed, for example. So look at that, and then open it up and take a look at that request. So they have a nice way to engage and see what the story is of their request. So that's where they're editing it. This is where they'd open up and take a look at what actually was submitted and the progress and all that of that request. Now, another interesting thing that is here is 2 ways for them to get information that may get them to the point where they don't even need to submit a request for info. So here it is, some links over here that will tell them information they may be requesting. So here's your information right here. You set all this up in the back end portal setting, or they can go search a knowledge base and they come in and say, oh, I need to know information about family members or something like that. And you can show them all information related to it. Good friendly interface, nice, intuitive. I go into a lot more detail. I could do a whole webinar just on this. I don't want to belabor it too much, but hopefully you get an idea that this is a highly flexible and engaging way to give users a way to submit the tickets into the system, and easily configured with the many possibilities here in our Power Portal settings. Here are different pages you can set up and different forms and themes and security settings. There's a lot to it here. So leaving that for the moment and going over to the back-end system, once that ticket is submitted, whether it's through that portal I just showed you, whether it's through email, somebody sends in an email, or whether it's through also coming right to the back end and creating a new request right here. Those are all the possibilities of doing that. And then it comes into the system. Okay, so now let's look at 2 parts of this studio. We'll go back to the studio apps. We covered very heavily the Power Portal. Now we're going to look at the forms and workflows that make the request management process happen and show you how much better this is than using an email spreadsheet or some legacy system that is there, and how easy it is to configure this to be specific to what you need. As I pointed out when I showed that University of Maryland HR forms, all those forms can be converted into forms over here with the forms manager, and the workflows that are necessary behind them can be implemented quite easily. So it's just really quite easy to do. So let's go look at the Nitro form. Here we are in a list of all requests. You could come in here and look at the Nitro forms right here. You can get to it from Nitro Studio Apps or from the Nitro forms itself. Now this is something that is another whole webinar in itself, and I think I did a webinar on that back in May, and there might be a recording online about it. Yeah, I think there is here in the resources video library. There's recordings on that, and of course we'll go through this in person with you if you want it also to show you. But here, see the Nitro forms and Power Portal, these different webinars in our video library. But getting back to the actual live thing going on right now, here is a form, Nitro Forms Designer. This is a really great addition to SharePoint in Office 365. Some people want to use Nintex or K2, and I'll just frankly say we've got calls where people said they got frustrated by it. It was way expensive. They didn't get the value out of it or whatever. I mean, it works for some people, but this is this is an alternative to those kind of Nintex K2 kind of forms development studios, or even an alternative to Power Apps and Flow and that kind of stuff. And we work in this all day long, so we want to make it easy for us to use and easy for our users to use. We're not doing this just to develop some highly sophisticated, unusable application. This is very, very useful, very, very practical. And let me show you how it works then. We have a form. It's a forms designer, the Nitro Forms Designer. We develop the form. It's a WYSIWYG. It's not one of these, where you don't see what you're getting. Here you see what you're getting. You got a new form, a new request form, an edit request form, a display request form. You can modify those at will. You have your fields listed here, how you want them to list. You can come in here in the layouts and themes section and apply different themes to it if you want different colors. You can even create your own themes in this system. You go here to global settings to create your own themes, but we'll go back to the blue-gray one. You can do it as tabs or sections if you prefer sections. Bada bing, it's right there, sections all of a sudden, right? Very easy. You want to go back to tabs, you can, just like that. You want to add a new tab in? That's pretty easy. You go here to tab and add it. There you go. There's a tab, new tab right there. Just like that. Now, when you have a new tab, you want to add your fields to it. So you can add the different fields here if you wanted. I don't know. I mean, just as an example, I won't actually do that, but here you go. And if you had a column, I need to add a column in, I'll create a column, and then I'll add that in here, for example. Okay, let's take that off. I don't want to mess with this form too much. So we go here, back to the layouts and themes section. You've got your, what kind of label. It's going to be display name, description, how it's going to show. I'll get into these buttons. Buttons are very, very interesting because you can add buttons right to the form that will take certain actions in there. It can be such as when you're working on a request, do you want to reassign it? Do you want to escalate it? Do you want to close it? Do you want to send it to someone else? All kinds of buttons can be added here on that. You can add the controls, any controls be in the SharePoint list, columns, the columns here, all the columns are listed with indicators, whether it's a text or yes, no, or related items and all that kind of stuff. And if you wanted to search, for those columns, you have a long list of columns, very easy to put in something like date, all the date ones, or even just like that, everyone has the word F in it, whatever. So there's all kinds of ways to search these columns and then just drag it right on here and plop it in right there, bada bing. You want to move it someplace else, move it down there. You want it to take it off, just exit. It's that easy to do, and it's gone from the form. And then, you do all that, and then eventually you publish it once you get where you want it. Now, not only that, that's just the beginning of laying out your form. There's a lot more you can do. So first, I'll go to this part where you're setting up on your right hand, you have a tab. Now you're setting up all the tab settings. You can change the title, you put the number of columns in here, 1 or 2. You can have the label positions in different places. And then maybe you don't want it to display on a mobile device. Some tabs you do, some you don't. So you can have all kinds of flexibility, what shows on a desktop versus the tablet or mobile. Let's just show some of this so that you can see how it changes easily. I have not done this in a way that, so now we have 2 columns. We have the titles above the forms, and then you just monkey around a little as to what makes it look nice and balanced here on it. It's very easy to change that back and forth like that. Isn't that a great tool, a great way to set up your forms? So easy. And our guys have done a tremendous job, I think, developing this forms tool and making it really practical, because we deal with so many complex situations. People come in, want this, that. You look at those paper forms, there's all these different settings on there, and we have to accommodate that into the forms that we make available to our customers. And that's what we've done here, and it makes it easy for us to manipulate a form and change it to whatever you want on it. What I did earlier today is I put the start and end date will show up when you do a leave request. So let me go over to the all request and show you what I mean. If I go to a new request here, this form is going to show up. You notice that end date and start date are not there. However, if I choose a leave request, and now start and end date are there. And if I take that off, it disappears. It's just dynamic forms. The same idea could show up when a different tab shows up. A different tab or different section shows up when you make a selection. Well, now you're getting to the point where you're really modifying this form to react to whatever kind of request the user is making. Makes it very powerful, start date, end date, and whatever other information you want to put here. You could do that on the form. One other thing that I was thinking of working on here is FMLA. Is it a Family Medical Leave Act leave? So you put here yes, no, and that would show up based on if it's a leave request or not. And I just set the permissions over here for this field very easily and say show when the condition is a category of equals leave request, show it, and hide it when the category is not leave request, right? Not equal to leave request. So very easy. There's so much to this system. It's so interesting. So there you go. So now we'll show or hide according to dynamic evaluation here, whether it's a leave request is selected or not. So let's publish that. Just showing you that it's that easy to make changes to this form. We're publishing it. And now you know how demos are, but if everything's working right, it should show up with that extra field on here when I go to a new request and choose leave request, okay? So it doesn't show up until I choose leave request. And, ooh, I must have done something. This is how demos. Let me go back to here and check that out again. Did I publish? See, hide, show, hide when not equal to leave request. Oh, I know what I have to do. This is something with what is this, Chrome. I have to come here, Chrome, and clear the cache, clear the browsing data. Then it'll work. So I'll go there and do that. And now I'll go back to all requests and do a new request. And when the new request comes up, and I choose leave request, and now it works. Yeah, I just had to clear that data. But see, I have the FML leave or not. So I just can add another field based on the fact that I chose leave request as a category. If I choose something else, those disappear. That's how easy it is to add or add or show or hide these different fields on here. Pretty cool. And you can also do that with different tabs, as I was saying. Now, if we look at this in a little more detail, you could do that, hide or show any of those based on different columns, or you could create a whole different form for leave request altogether if that's what you want. If it says leave request, show that tab. If it says benefit request, show that. All to adapt to these peculiarities and necessities that are in the many paper forms that are out there, so you can make this form as flexible and possible to satisfy the needs as needed for your forms conversion from the emails or paper or spreadsheets into an electronic system. Okay, I could go more and more into this whole system. We have related items, it can be related tasks, time tracking, there's approvals that can go on. One other thing I'll do here, then I'll move on to workflows. Related items, I never like it like this. I like it better when the position is vertical like that, so that you can show more of the associated tasks. I'm just going to save that like that and publish it. Apply and publish it just so I have it. Okay, so that's it. And then you could design your edit and others. A lot more here. Oh, before I leave this, I do want to go into a few other things. Sorry, I just realized I do. On here on this forms, we have autofill capabilities. That's going to determine what data gets filled in here automatically when you choose a name. It could be requester, agent, contact, person, customer, client, member. It's going to autofill from either a SharePoint list or the SharePoint user profile or Active Directory into the whatever field you want here through the autofill setting. We're also going to do lookup settings where you can look up information from one list to another and say, okay, based on the fact that, you know, Joe Schmo is the requester, let's show all of Joe Schmo's assets right here in here. You can do associated items where your request is related to approval processes, requests are related to time tracking, other assets, other items. You can relate many things together. You can inject custom JavaScript, custom CSS, and one thing we added just recently is the signature pad. Signature is like an e-signature capability to these forms. Go into all that in detail as needed if you want. We can do specifically talk to you about specific needs you have in your organization. Another thing are the actions you can add on here. You can add actions to the form that will put buttons here or in place in the form, or even replace the save and cancel buttons down here with specific actions that are that you describe either through, for example, here's one. You can write up some JavaScript here to do that, or we can help you with that. We give you some stubs already to get going on it, or you can come in when you're in the edit mode. I'm gonna continue without saving. When you're in the edit mode here, you can come in and add in. When you're in display mode, you can come in and add in custom actions. So here's a custom action, which is defined one of our studio apps. You define a custom action, and then you go ahead and place it up here, and then it's going to be able to do something. As you can imagine, it can be any number of custom actions that are based on actions you created. You can self-assign, close, assign to someone, escalate it, move it along. So it makes the form very, very capable and powerful to go beyond just simply displaying information, but actions can actually take place right here. So when we open up one of these forms in display mode, actions could show up here. If I added those in, those actions would show up right here. They also can show up in the item ribbon. They can show up in the above there in the list ribbon right here. items, there's different actions right here. So you can have all ways to make this really, really automate and streamline the operations with a workflow and processes. That second pillar that we went into earlier about, we talked about earlier, workflows and business processes, streamlining automation. That is huge part of this after the UI UX is to, once it gets in, number of workflows kick off. Let's look at the apps that power that up right here. We have two things that are the main part of the workflows and business processes: workflows, of course, and custom actions. Custom actions are ones that are initiated by pressing a button, either in the ribbon or on the form that I just showed you. There's a place for the buttons to go. You press it, something's going to happen. Workflows are more kicked off by system events, such as an item is created, an item is modified, an item is deleted, or timers. Certain timers be like the due date, 1 day before due date, 1 day after due date, 1 hour after due date, all those kinds of things. Let's look at some of those workflows right now and go into it and see what kind of power there is in this workflow tool. So here you have the workflow tool that's setting up all the back-end functionality that's automating and streamlining your business processes here. So the workflow name here might be escalate. You know, it hasn't been dealt with, so it's going to be automatically escalated when the due date of this request is exceeded. Escalate is from the request list. Here we go. Request list. When the item, it's based on a timer or date field in there, and the date field being due date. So 1 day, let's say 1 day after due date, whatever you want. I mean, it could be 1 day before, 1 day after, 1 hour after. We can repeat it, only send it during business hours, but we're setting up the trigger and the condition. So this escalate's going to happen 1 day after. Okay, what's it going to do? Well, you might want to do send an email out. You might want to reassign it. You might want to set the priority to high. Let's do something where we just set the priority to high here. So we're going to say set priority to high. That's already there on the current item. And we're going to go here to this and say we're going to set the priority value of this simply to high. Now you can see there's a lot more you can do with this, which is set, you know, say due date could be added on a certain amount of time. You can do all kinds of stuff with these functions here. Very powerful workflow tool here, but we'll keep it fairly simple here. Just set priority to high when it's escalated, and then we save that. And we can also do something like, let's see what else. We're going to send an email out to the assigned person, the action's name, send email to, let's say, to assigned person, maybe to James if he's the manager, also to assigned staff, and we're going to send a certain template out here. We build the template, put it in, and then we're going to send it out to the particular the two people would be a person in the field of the staff who's assigned to, right? So you want to send a notification to. Oh, I got to click that there. Okay, now it should do it. So assigned staff and managers, it's going to be from, you know, whoever, so on and on and on, that you can set up here and send this email action out and have that happen when it's done. And to set up the email, you set up the email here and call escalation template. And the escalation template, once you set up, you can use it over and over again to send an email out to the person. Escalation template, maybe priority should be high because it's going to be, it says ticket is overdue, or request is overdue. And the mail body can have a link to it. Item link can go in there. Item link can add to the body. And then you can do like title, due date, you know, all that stuff. And then here for the title, add in the title field from here. Title, I think I just passed it, you know, wherever it is, title. Title, I know you're there somewhere. Title. Well, it's here somewhere. I'm going right by it. There it is, add to body. If you want to bold this up, you can. Bold, make a higher font, you know, or different font, but also the size, 18, title, something like that. So then you have a template that can be added and make that as fancy and interesting as you want from a system account here, and then you have a template. See, it's that easy to do. Crow Canyon at crowcanyon365.com is like a system account. Put it in there, and that's going to go out automatically on this workflow. So now we have two actions going on here, and we might also want to add a condition to say, well, let's not send that out when the request status is closed, because obviously there's no reason to send it out if equals closed. It's not equal to closed or completed, whatever the word is you're using. So now that workflow is an escalation workflow, very quickly put together. You can be more sophisticated with a little bit more time, add more actions such as reassign it to someone, notify the manager, do other things. But anyway, here it is, escalate on a timer-based functionality. We've now added that workflow to the request management system. You can even do stuff like put the conditions as when it's a leave request, do this, notify different people. When it's a benefits, notify other people. So many, many ways to use these workflows in that manner, that way. Quite interesting and quite fun to set up, very easy to do that. And the other part of the workflows and processes are the custom actions here. And the custom actions, similar idea, except for the concept is that you can now initiate these simply by pressing a button and decide in great detail where you want this activity to show up in the list ribbon, the items ribbon, on the form itself, or a custom action can actually initiate a workflow. So let's look at a new custom action here, for this request list. Again, we could do escalate, maybe you want to escalate it immediately. I'm just using that one over and over. And then you can decide where it's going to show up on a Nitro form, on the display form, in the edit control block, and our list view ribbon, just to show you what edit control block is, this thing right here, where you right click and you get it listed right here. Back to custom actions. And then it could be a confirmation message, continue on error, what happened, what to do, what actions to escalate, to execute here. And again, you can add those same kind of things such as update list items, send email out, execute a script, do all these different actions that are possible simply by pressing that button that says escalate. Let's just put something here just for just so you can see that in action in there. So we're going to call it update priority and due date. I don't know. So let's do that. Run for the current item. And we're going to go here and say add a column mapping of priority to high, right here, high. Okay. And we can add another mapping of assigned staff to, for some reason, we want to put Pavan in there. Maybe he's the manager of it or something. I don't know, whatever. Whatever. You can come up with your own ideas here on this. But the idea is that the concept here is now we're going to update priority and due date. We could add another action of sending an email. We could add another action of blah, 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 whatever is necessary or whatever constitutes an execution. Now, if we save this, we have another action here called escalate. And if I remember right, I believe I added that to ECB, the edit control block. And now it should show up here. Yeah, escalate was not there previously. It is now. We can also come in here and see that the escalate option is on the display form of this form is right here, escalate. And it's also in the ribbon. Now, if you want to add it someplace else, we go back to our forms here in the display, and now we can add a custom action up here. We added the button already, and we decide what custom action. Well, it's an escalate action. Oh, I have to, let me do this, reopen this. Yes, confirm. Yes, I'm just going to leave that and come back in. So you can reread the set of actions that I have there and go back to the request list. Stuff is so easy to use and create. And I haven't even gone into all the other Nitro Studio apps there that you can do with the cascading lookups and the branding and the tiles and dials. Anyway, so here we are in the forms again. So I have to go to the forms to add that custom action. Request, go. All right, it's already almost an hour, 50 minutes. There's so much to show and do. It's so, you were doing all this to convince you that you can get off paper forms and email systems and use SharePoint to do this. And I'm digging into details here, but it's really not that complex. We do this all the time. You just got to take what the paper form and what the form looks like and the workflows, and then put it into SharePoint. And there's, it's like anything. There's a process to make it happen. And papers, people write with a pen or they go to PDF and check boxes with their computer. But SharePoint's a little different. So you just put all that into here, and all of a sudden it's very powerful. Oh, I was going to put a custom action in here when I'm in the display form to impress you with the capabilities of this, right? So here we go. Hey, come back here. It's supposed to land right there. So there's a custom action, and we're going to choose escalate, and we'll give it the name escalate. Escalate me. How about escalate me? Why not? Image can be whatever image you want. It can be the standard icon, any of these icons, here. I don't know, maybe that's like an escalate icon, who knows? And then you can have permissions where it only shows up for certain people, that button, maybe. So we go here, let's apply it. And that button could go here, it could go other places, it could go in the form, but let's put it right there. Let's publish this, confirm that I'm publishing it. There you go. And I believe I don't have to clear the, Chrome's a little funny. Sometimes you have to clear the browser cache, but I think it'll come up even without that this time. Well, I guess I do. All right, so let me clear that cache again and go here and where's it? Clear more tools, clear browser data, and just do that. Chrome's a little funny that way. Okay, so here we go. I guess it's gone. So let's go back here and open that up again and see if that escalate button shows up on where we want it to. Yeah, there's the escalate me's right here now. And you can have, of course, a string of buttons up here that do that, or down here and replace some of the buttons here. So we're talking about hide the save button, hide the cancel button. Well, some of them can show up here and replace that. So quite like you do. And then, well, let's see. What did I do? I said reassign it to Pavan and set the priority to high. So what do we have now? Unassigned priority unassigned. Let's try it out, right? Escalate me. You sure you want to escalate? That's a question we have if they want a confirmation message or not. You don't have to have it. Huh? Oh, field may be read only. I don't know. Well, that's what happens when I do it on the fly like that. But that'd be very easy to fix by finding out what field is read only and how to fix that. But anyway, the point here is that you can put these in and be able to instantly modify whatever needs to be done. So you can take the action. Someone calls you up and says, what happened with my request? Well, you say, oh yeah, here it is. Oh geez, I better escalate it, or I better reset the priority to it. Anyway, all kinds of things you can do with that escalation and custom action functionality there. So that is just part of this Nitro Studio. We cover forms, workflows, a little bit, Power Portal somewhat, but it's also the reports, which you can use to guide your continuous cycle of improvement and find out where all the requests are coming from and how come you're getting so many, and to take corrective actions in order to minimize those requests and provide the information or other change of procedure or replacement of hardware, whatever's causing the request in the first place. You can present it. If you get a lot of requests for a certain thing, well, maybe you want to pop onto your application portal here some more information about that and say, please look here first. And then when the person goes to submit that, you can return an email with them and said, have you looked at this? Can response back to the person. So that's another feature of our studio, is this email section right here. In the studio itself, jumping over to the studio, there's an email manager. In the email manager, you set up different responses. There can be just a generic response or canned responses. Let me see if this has any canned responses in it already for the request list. Let me go over to the request list and check it out. Here I'm in the request list. Let's say I can set up these really interesting and really gear it to what you need. A simple request form or complex. I don't know, it's up to you. So here we have a bunch of templates. If we had a bunch of templates, there's only one, but you can add a whole bunch of templates here. And then when you come in and do this email, you'll have a choice to select the template, which is in essence a canned response. And then you come in, there'd be a list here of all the different templates. And then I could just easily mail right back to that person that information with no sweat. For you, just click that button, choose a template, and bada bing, send it to them, and they got the information they need. And all that's recorded in the email history of this ticket as part of the going back and forth of the ticket. That's just one other app that we're talking about. Another one is the KPI, the color conditional formatting here, where you come in and you can set your list up to have, for instance, here's red highlighted in red, the high priority ones. You can also set up progress bars and KPIs with that conditional formatting. And you can print out the tickets right here with the print manager. You set up a template either for the item or for the list to print out and you set up a new list print template or item print template, and you can print out that list item or that list of list of items, or you can print out the individual items themselves that way with the print manager there. Let's see what else. Approvals. Approvals are often used in request management. You need an approval process, and that can be based on multiple conditions with serial, meaning sequential, or parallel approvals. You have multiple people if you have 3 people for approval, does one require approval? All 3 required. Approval can be from the manager. It can be from somebody you select, and et cetera, et cetera. You can have advanced lookup. Branding, where you change the look and feel quite easily of the application. You come in and there's certain themes that we provide, as well as you can create your own custom theme and then very quickly change that back end to look a way you want it to look. You have conditional format I talked about, custom actions, email management. Email sync is where the emails are converted from incoming email into a new request, a new ticket. One thing I'll mention about this, and we haven't really addressed that, I know we're getting near the top of the hour, is that you can use this system for customer support just as easily as for internal employee support. And that customers may be sending an email. Now, customers can be customers, members, clients, partners, any kind of account, any kind of entity that you have a relationship with on the outside can be there, and they can have a nice portal to come to like this that has all their stuff in it and is their request would only see their request. They can see all company requests or the ones that individuals submitted. What I mean by that is that you could have a company view all my companies, or if it's a client or company request, or view the request put in by me specifically. I'm like a person in that company. So either way you could do it. Just have another link here that says view all company requests. Make that link only available to certain managers in the company. That's a kind of jumping a little there, but I can discuss that more at any time with you if you want to go into the customer support side of things. We've done a lot. Crocanian's been around 20 years. We know this stuff. We have very experienced people, very experienced developers. This is stuff that does come out of, nowhere. This comes out of real world experience, and we built this program, the Nitro Studio, and our premium applications based on this incredible amount of experience we have. Thousands, probably tens of thousands of customers we've talked to over the years and provide and continue to provide applications for. So we have the premium applications, we have the Nitro Studio that gives you the power to create these applications. And then, anytime you want to discuss this more, we're welcome to do a demo, talk with us individually, download a trial. We're here to help out, help your organization be more efficient and effective. Now, again, to the top of the hour, so I'm kind of coming to a conclusion right here. I don't know if there's any questions that came up. I don't know if the team answered them. If not, we'll answer after. But please stay in touch. Think of the ways that you can possibly improve the efficiency and lower costs of your organization using SharePoint and Office 365 and our tools with Crocanian. We go to a number of the SharePoint shows. We'll be in New York City a week from Saturday at the SharePoint Saturday there. We'll be at the SharePoint Fest in Seattle, Charlotte, LA, Denver, Chicago. We were just at the big conference. We were gold sponsors actually of the big event in Las Vegas. That was in May. So stay in touch. Let's keep working on it together and help your organizations be more efficient and productive. I'm just going to be ending at this hour because of the respecting on people's time. And I hope that if you have any questions, you'll get in touch with me, either Scott, I'm Scott Restivo, or any of our staff, sales@crocanian.com. Any of those ways to contact us. I think I have a slide on that I'll show at the end here. Stay in touch. We have Twitter, blog, Twitter feed, if you're into that, blog. We have the website. We have the phone. I mean, let's work together and make it happen. Make your organization get off of help your organization get off the old legacy email, spreadsheets, that kind of stuff, into a much more efficient operation. Well, thank you for attending. Appreciate your time and hope to hear from you soon on this. Have a good day. Thank you.